I'm Will Anderson. This is Gruen Sweat, a four-part series about the London 2012 Olympics, where the world's most competitive brands come together to fight for glory and gold. Mostly gold. We'll meet tonight's panel in a moment, but first, brands have been part of the Olympics since the modern games began in Athens in 1896. Those games were partly underwritten by ads in the souvenir program for the likes of Kodak. I wonder what their slogan was back then. Coming soon, the camera. The orgy of selling starts before the games even begin. Take the torch relay. Pure marketing. Its origins don't even date back to ancient Greece. They go back to these guys. Yes. Prince Harry's mates. No, to 1936 and Berlin, where the torch run was staged as a PR exercise. It was meant to draw a line from Greek civilization to the Third Reich. And it was all going well until someone on the torch relay tried to run into Poland. What, too soon? 75 years later, the relay's still about PR for the games, but also for sponsors like Samsung and Coke, who get to G up crowds along the route and reward their own staff. You might think the actual torch runners would be local heroes, but 800 slots are reserved for sponsors and admin. The torch relay is also about political spin, allowing village mayors to get photo opportunities, wearing giant penis costumes, and international pop stars like will.i.am to indulge in product placement. Here he is thanking Coca-Cola for letting him run while tweeting on his BlackBerry torch phone. Yeah, they invited Snoop Dogg, but he used the torch to light a giant joint. And that's only the start of it. Brands tie themselves in all kinds of knots to associate with the Olympics, including an old friend of ours.
Repeat after me. I will make it to the big championship. I will win all the first place medals. And most of the other ones. I will cure all the world problems. I will die a hero. But I will live forever through my line of premium table crackers.
Gruen Sweat, the science of looking awesome. Time to welcome the panel. First, a pair of Gruen immortals from Leo Burnett, Todd Sampson, and from Y&R Group, Russell Howcroft. They're joined by two Olympic legends, heptathlete Jane Fleming, now a sponsorship and marketing specialist, and a man who makes his living advising athletes and sports organisations, marathon runner Steve Monaghetti. Let's not get on our marks, let's just go. Here's a recent ad featuring arguably the biggest star of the US Olympic team, the smokin' Michael Phelps.
To perform your best, training's gotta be a lifelong passion.
Michael!
Fueled by a foot-long passion. That's why Debbie Phelps is always there for her son Michael, with his favorite flavor-packed, fully jacked foot-long subs.
Only one?
Michael!
Dive into Michael's fave, the protein powerhouse Subway turkey and bacon avocados.
Subway.
The official training restaurant of the Phelps family.
And athletes everywhere.
Unfortunately, ate that sandwich, got a cramp and drowned. Normally on Gruen, we talk about what's in ads, but what's interesting about that ad is what's not in it. It doesn't mention London or the Olympics. There's no footage of Phelps touching the wall in triumph. No medals, no rings. Todd, all that stuff's gold. Why isn't it in there?
The reason none of those things are mentioned is because Subway's not an official sponsor of the Games, McDonald's is. But what's clever about their strategy is they obviously knew that 4 years ago. So they positioned themselves as the official training restaurant of athletes. So that is as close as you can get to make an Olympic ad without paying the money and it being an Olympic ad.
There's $1 billion being spent on advertising. There's $4 billion spent on broadcast rights by people being involved with the Olympics. And it's quite clever, isn't it, how they're just getting around that very neatly, and of course the lawyers will be looking at it for certain, and it's surprising that perhaps they haven't gone on.
Well, there's a whole series of phrases that you're not allowed to use unless you're an official Olympic sponsor that are banned from being used, and one of them that is not is actually official. And I'm waiting for that to be added to the next list because everyone says we're an official sponsor and they've said we're the official restaurant. So
and what's surprising his mother didn't say, but make sure you wait 20 minutes before you swim.
Yeah. That's kind of the joke I did before, to be honest. Let's follow the money. 11 brands have paid $100 million each to be worldwide Olympic partners. 7 have handed over $63 million to be London 2012 partners. 6 have spent $31 million to call themselves London supporters. 28 more have forked out $15 million to be official suppliers and providers. I sent them $10. I've heard nothing. Russell, if you're a brand, how do you make that investment pay off?
Well, ultimately, you make it pay off by making sure you're getting sales. So we know Procter & Gamble's on the record. They've said that they're going to get 500 million increase in sales. Heineken believe they'll sell another 2 million pints in the UK. Actually, the UK government thinks that their GDP will go up during the Olympic period. Really interestingly, one of the reasons why you sponsor is because you want to tie up the opportunity. So you will, if you're a Coca-Cola, for example, yes, you give them money in order to appear next door to the Olympic rings, but you're also giving them money so no one else appears, i.e. your competitors don't appear. You're not just paying for the logo, you're paying for the right to if you like, sell during that period.
Yeah.
It's great
I think that's important, because it's once every 4 years, so you can build the brand over that time. So you've got exclusivity over that time to build up, and you know at the end of the day the product's going to sell. It's there. You've got it.
These companies are paying the IOC hundreds of millions of dollars to promote the IOC.
Yeah.
Like in the commercial world, it'd be like Apple paying Coca-Cola to promote Coca-Cola.
The Apple is the most valuable brand in the world. Yeah. And second only to Apple is the brand of the IOC. So it has a stronger and more valuable brand than each of its partners.
Really interestingly, I mean, in the ad game, we love the Olympics because there is a 4-year cycle to global ad spend. And it's as a result of the Olympics and the US presidential elections, which happen at the same time. So there is this wonderful curve that goes up. You know, every 4 years, we're going to get a lift in ad spend. There's a lift in Australian ad spend coming up because of the Olympics as well. So it's good for business.
IOC seems to stand for Iron-Fisted Omnipresent Control. As a non-broadcast rights holder, for example, during the Games, Gruen can't show a single second of footage from this year's Olympics or any other Olympics in history. A fact I wish we'd known before we agreed to do this show. Over in London, around every venue is an official brand exclusion zone. For a kilometre in any direction, no non-sponsor can advertise. A week ago, the UK papers reported 286 actual brand police going on duty. Law and order, brand police. Dong dong. We think this might be them at work. Across the UK, there's been a lot of policing already.
The Olympic rings and all the logos that go with them are, by British law, untouchable brands. Whoever you are, if you don't follow the rules, the brand police will find you. Take the entertainment agency that promoted a trapeze act using hoops, banned. Or one of the many shopkeepers with homemade rings in a window display, banned. Using the word Olympic out of the question, banned. Although defiance at this cafe, the O removed.
The branding rules are strict. If you're a London pub, you can't scribble a chalkboard message out front telling people to come in and watch the games over a pint. You're legally required to display this poster, which carries the logos of 16 key sponsors. Steve, is that a good idea or a bad one?
Well, it can't be good, can it? What is it here? Is it no shirt, no shoes, no service? So what is it, you know, we're changing it to no shirt, no sponsors, no service. Yes. I mean, it's just out of control.
But again, they have to do it though, Steve, because if they don't do that, then a rival beer manufacturer will provide the poster.
Yeah, I would have appreciated a better looking poster.
I was going to say it's an art
direction.
direction.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. The art direction is shocking.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you have a few pints and you're not going to be able to... I mean, you read it on the way in. You're certainly not going to read the same message on the way out. You need a bigger writing when you're coming out.
I mean, the good news is when you're vomiting on it and you're face down, you're really soaking the brand.
Yeah, those sponsors would appreciate that.
Woke up the next day, I don't know why, but I just need a Coke. And that's not all of it. A butcher was told to remove his Olympic ring sausage display. A woman who knitted doll clothes with GB 2012 on them for a charity fundraiser was advised to remove them from sale. A cake decorating competition was told it couldn't have an Olympic theme. Russell, are these people just getting into the spirit?
They are forgetting that ultimately the public is their owner of the brand. At the moment, what they're doing is weighing up the negatives. But they also know they don't want to agitate the people that give them the money. So they weigh up the negatives and they side with the money.
I think those small companies are getting more advertising than they could ever afford to have.
Yeah, so they're enjoying it. Yeah, that's it.
But it's bad for the IOC's image to have this, like, because you hear those things and you get this image of these brand police going into little old ladies and breaking their knitting needles.
It's insane, isn't it? I know, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because this is a new world. This is a world where one tweet can change things. So perhaps potentially the behaviour is old world, old media behaviour when we've got a different sort of world now.
All we have to do is get some clever person, go out and do an amazingly clever, funny video, put it up on YouTube, and what are they going to do to that person?
In order for them to get the games, since the Sydney Games, they passed legislation. Before, if you broke these brand guidelines, well, it's a bit of an issue and they can slap you a bit, or it's a bit of a civil issue. Now it's a criminal offence. It's actually illegal.
But also, it's getting tighter.
Yeah,
it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And actually,
it's tough when you're in prison, though. What are you in for, mate? Murdered someone? What about you? Knitted something?
Yeah.
With rings on it?
Yeah. Knitted something. Want to share needles? London Organising Committee boss Lord Coe says the heavy-handedness is necessary because sponsors chip in most of the $2 billion of London operating costs.
By protecting the companies that have actually put money into the games, we're also protecting the taxpayer, because if we don't reach those targets, then actually the taxpayer is the guarantor of last resort.
I didn't hear a word he said. He's so dreamy. Jane, you've actually worked with Seb Coe, a man who sounds more corporation than human. Shop at Seb Coe. Does he really believe that we're going to buy that?
You know, he's a member of the IOC. He's the chairman and the CEO of the organisation. He was a politician, so of course he is going to say that. Yeah, yeah, really. There is no question that he is going to say that. He's playing the role. And that is absolutely... Whether he believes that or not is another question.
You know, it's very hard to, if you like, economically justify the Olympics, and they really work hard, don't they, trying to structure up an argument. Oh, well, the taxpayer eventually is going to pay. Well, the taxpayer's paying. It's gone from 2.6 to 9.6.
I think it's a fair argument that he could have made, a very simple argument, to say that if we didn't have the sponsors, if we didn't have the, the capitalist mechanisms underneath the game, there would not be the Olympic Games as we know it. It would be like back 3,000 years ago in Athens, and not many people would be watching it.
The place where the Olympic advertising lockdown is strongest is in the stadium itself, where no ads are allowed, not even from sponsors. Now, Todd, if you're Panasonic and you've paid $100 million for the rights, surely when Usain Bolt's running the 100 metres, you want to see your brand in the background.
Yeah, clearly they would, but that has stopped since 1924. And I'm actually glad they've stopped doing it, because if they allowed product integration and product placement in the stadiums themselves, it would kind of look like sort of the master chef of sport. It would be stacked full of things. You'd be so distracted by what you see, you wouldn't even be watching the same.
It's actually really clever, isn't it? Because it's the illusion of amateurism. It's the illusion of the past, but it's creating scarcity. And in creating scarcity, making the TV rights more expensive. It's very astute.
I love the idea, though, that that's where they draw their line. They're like, we will advertise everything, but the stadium is, oh, no, we're not going to touch that. They're like the prostitute that won't kiss on the lips. The lockdown extends to athletes, with rules about how prominent logos can be on uniforms. Steve, are there athlete cops with tape measures in the dressing rooms?
I actually had a personal experience when... my first marathon, it was going to be a bit hot, so we decided we'd cut some holes in our numbers, and we put our numbers on, and we went to the police, the brand police, checking it. We lifted our T-shirts up, and he saw the holes and said, well, that's it, mate, you can't run. And I'm going, God, I'm probably glad, because I didn't have to run 42K, so that's the good news. And then I'm thinking,
to be honest, yes. You've chosen the wrong job if you don't like running.
I was mildly unhappy. Yeah. And then Rob Dextella was next, and he went up, and he'd also cut holes in his number, and of course they're not going to disqualify him because he's a legend, so the guy just goes, oh, Rob, you know better than that, don't do it again anyway. Just take your young mate with you. So I got away with it.
I believe that the first time you wore sunglasses in a race, that might have had some sort of sneaky commercial endorsement. Is that not right?
It was performance enhancing. How did you go? I won. That's all right. I won. It was raining. It just... what did it do? It was dark. It was raining. That's right. I don't like having my eyes where other competitors can see them. Read a lot through people's eyes.
But you're out
They're
front,
not convinced, are they? Yeah, I'm out front. That's a good place to be.
I mean, if you are looking other competitors in the eyes, one of you's running the wrong way.
Exactly.
Spectators are not immune either. Last Friday, Lord Coe, oh, he's so dreamy, said stadium visitors would not be allowed to wear Pepsi T-shirts because Coke is a sponsor. Coke has paid for exclusive drinking rights at the venues. Visitor bags will be searched and no one can take more than 100 ml of any fluid into the stadium. There's even talk of women who've expressed breast milk being required to open the bottle and sample it to prove it.
Surely.
I'm really glad that didn't happen last time because I did actually have to express during the opening ceremony.
Ooh.
And I actually closed it up and put it in the Coca-Cola tub next to the commentary position.
Well, that's it. That's it. Whack the brand on the top. I think Coca-Cola's looking at creating a milk for babies anyway.
I got to be honest with you, if your baby is old enough to be at the Olympics, it's old enough to drink Coke.
I thought that Coke tasted funny, that one.
That's because you had the glasses on.
And it was raining.
It was raining. You couldn't see it.
Maybe I would have broken my PB chasing after that milk. Don't you worry about that.
He can run a long way.
It's one thing for Coke to advertise to us, another to take away our right to bring a bottle of water. Russell, how is that okay?
They have to check these things because they have to police it because people like us in the advertising industry, we try and find ways in order to ambush the Olympics.
So Coke makes water.
Yeah,
so
of course.
they just want to sell their own water.
They want to sell their own water.
At a
That's
stadium markup.
There's growing dissent. Former IOC marketing director Michael Payne, the man who invented the sponsorship program we have today, says the rules were never meant to clamp down on ordinary people. And London Lord Mayor Boris Johnson said this over the weekend.
If bakers want to make a gigantic Olympic pretzel and display it, you know, in there to advertise their wares in the high streets of London, let them do so. I think it's absolute nonsense, and you know, certainly no brand army is going to have the support of the administration in London.
What I'm saying is that I like donuts and pretzels. Would someone bring me some? This is the Olympics, where the construction of the world's biggest McDonald's has had more attention than the construction of the stadiums, where 75% of visitors will be funnelled through a Westfield. Even at this distance, it feels very corporate. Jane, is there ultimately a risk it will damage the brand of the IOC, or do people forget as soon as the games begin?
There is this raft of media that enter into a city a week to 2 weeks before the game. So there are 10,000 accredited media at the Olympic Games and 5,000 non-accredited, and every one of them has to file a story, and there is no sport on yet. So any slight thing that happens gets, you know, massive coverage and a big beat-up. The sport will take over from the moment the gun fires on the first race, but up until then it's not, and this is the news.
I'm not sure if we actually mentioned the word athlete yet.
No, they're irrelevant.
Yeah, I know.
They're just
realising that.
entertainment.
It's stunning that that such a big organisation, and yet a lot of the focus is not on the athletes. I mean, it is. We're having a field day because so much of it is media branding and media bad stories about branding issues.
Well, this, of course, is why the Olympics is worth so much money, and why the media love it, because you've got hours and hours and hours that you don't have to think about filling via other news. Yeah, it's brilliant.
I think it is very, very ordinary if someone uses the Olympics just to fill up a few weeks of content on their program.
I reckon that's what's going on.
Now the pitch where ad agencies attempt to swim the unswimmable. To kick off Gruen Sweat, we've asked them to challenge our whole idea of the Games, to come up with a campaign to convince Australians that a 100% tolerance, all drugs are okay, performance-enhanced Olympics is the only way forward. Have they succeeded? Please welcome from Play Communication, Shani Lange, and from Convert, Andrew Turley. Welcome. Welcome to you both. All right, Shani, how did you score?
Well, athletes are expected to sacrifice a lot to become an Olympian, so we wanted to show our support by putting our focus on equal opportunity.
Let's have a look.
else is doing it. Let athletes into the game.
Good job. All right, Andrew, did you need a little something to get to the finish line?
Well, we found it was an incredibly contentious issue for the Australian public, so we looked for some simple, strong reasons to change that stance.
Let's have a look.
There was a time when anyone could use performance enhancers at the Olympic Games. But those times are gone for most athletes. And that's the problem. Today's rules are only holding back honest athletes. Clearly, the IOC's attempts to eliminate drugs from the Olympic Games has failed. So support an Olympics that allows the use of safe and legal performance enhancers. By allowing them, we level the playing field. And that's all our athletes want. So this Olympics, advance Australia fair.
All right, guys, two completely different approaches this week. Russell, which one did you prefer?
Well, it's a smart argument from play that everyone's doing it, so therefore we can. However, I'm going to go with Andrew. I'm persuaded. I think it's a great idea. We should just burn the drug list and just make it free for all. Well done, mate.
Jane, which one did you prefer?
I'm actually going number 2 as well. I thought that it explained the reasoning behind it in a really clear, precise manner and, you know, actually was, I think, believable.
Monas, 1 or 2 for you?
I like the first one using normal situations, but I'm leaning to the second one as well, just because I love the catch line at the end really grabbed and hit home for me really strongly, Andrew.
And finally, Todd?
I thought they're all doing it is really nice, the first one. But again, I'll go with the second one. I like the idea. It actually did make you think.
Well, I think the most important thing is that they don't drug test comedians. Congratulations. Good win today. This is for you.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you for your vote, for being part of it. That's how our panel saw it, but you can't trust their views until the blood results come back. Share your thoughts on Facebook or Twitter. Gruen Sweat, part of the goodification. Now, great moments in sportvertising. Each week we'll bring you 3 examples from the noble history of using sports people to flog stuff. At number 3 this week, we celebrate the weirdest ever marriage of sport and sponsor, the Lithuanian men's basketball team and stoner rock band, the Grateful Dead. For reasons that probably made sense after a cone, the Dead funded the Lithuanians at the '92 Barcelona Olympics, where the ball players not only scored a bronze medal, but these awesome team uniforms.
That's genius.
That would have been the best training session ever. Dude, catch this, it's made of chocolate. Oh, it's snakes. Number 2 on our countdown, we all know brands buy naming rights to stadiums, but we have to tip the hat to Geelong Cats legend Gary Hocking, a man who in 1999 changed his name by deed poll to Whiskers. The cat food company paid Hocking $20,000 to do it and contributed another 80 grand to the club. Whiskers played for 1 week before changing his name back to Gaza. And I will give 20 grand to anyone who can give one of my cats that mullet. Tonight's number 1 is more recent. A well-known airline sponsor of the Aussie team has decided to get its money's worth by having a bunch of awkward athletes shoot the in-flight safety demonstration.
Welcome on board our Qantas Airbus A380. It is important you're familiar with the brace position appropriate to your seat. If you can't reach the seat in front, put your head on your knees or lean as far forward as you can and hold on to your legs.
That video goes for 4 minutes. We can't show you all of it, but here's my favourite bit.
Take a moment now to check where the nearest exits are on this aircraft, as the cabin crew points them out.
There's no cabin crew! Something's gone wrong! They've ejected! Grant Hackett's flying the plane! Steve, am I really meant to trust a safety information from someone in a tracksuit?
I'm enjoying it. It breaks it up a bit, and seriously, if my plane's in trouble, I'm pretty happy that I've got Steve Hooker. He's going to leap tall buildings, and Super Sally's going to overcome all the hurdles, and Liesl Jones, well, if it's a water landing, she'll save me. So I don't know. Is that right?
And the reason the plane crashed is because John Stephenson's up the back tweeting?
Yeah. Qantas is certainly getting their money's worth out of their athletes. I'm actually surprised. I'm actually surprised the regulators let this happen because it is incredibly distracting, you know, because you're watching how awkward these athletes are and you're not actually paying attention to the message. Just how awkward can an athlete look and uncomfortable in an ad?
But also I laughed when I saw the equestrian person take their riding helmet off when they got onto the plane.
Really? Are you serious?
Maybe if Grant Hackett's flying it, they should have left it on.
What is the idea of that? That she rode to the airport?
Yeah. It's actually a horse down the back.
It's so bad.
Jane, would the athletes get any money from a video like that?
Look, a lot of them are endorsed by Qantas, and part of their contract will be use of their name, likeness and image, and a lot of that would have an extra loading because they're involved in TV commercials, but they certainly haven't endorsed that number of athletes. If they've sponsored the Olympic team, there's so many athletes that would go, yeah, I'll be in a Qantas ad, and they'd get no money out of it at all. And it would all be passed off as they're paying the AOC some money, and that helps you benefit, and that's the way it works. Yeah.
The story came out last week that the Australian women's basketball team flew to London in premium economy, while the men's team flew business. Leaving aside the sexism, the fact remains that Qantas put a bunch of 9-foot-tall Sheilas in smaller seats. Todd, that's not smart sponsorship, is it?
I don't think you can blame Qantas for that. I think that the teams would have budgets and they would allocate it according to how they would want to allocate it. I'm sure that the women's basketball team's budget was a lot smaller, but there is no way you can sidestep the sexist aspect of it. I mean, we know from a money perspective and from a popular television sporting perspective, women are certainly second-class citizens. And in addition to that, I think most marketing, not all of it, but most marketing tends to portray women, sporting athletes, as sexy rather than talented, which is a shame.
See, I think the women's basketball team is not the same, and when you have a look at Olympic sports, the sports where both the men and women compete at the same time, the women tend to be quite dominant. If you even think back over the last 20 years with Australia, the biggest Olympian we had was Cathy Freeman. Most people in Australia would know Lauren Jackson's name, but if you asked them to name one of the male basketballers, they probably wouldn't be able to tell you. Yeah. The thing that did happen, and I know what happened with the Qantas situation, is the women's basketball team decided they wanted to spend more of their budget on training camps, hence they only got to do the premium economy thing as opposed to the male basketball team who saved some of their budgets, which is basically...
The male were like, screw training. I want some leg room. Gruen sweat, a little bit of decadence you can have every day. According to a recent newspaper report, going into London, our most popular Olympian is 3-time gold winner Stephanie Rice. That was Stephanie with her former boyfriend Eamon Sullivan in the good old days when she was in demand as an endorser. Here's her website now. Check out the sponsor section. Russell, there's only one. Why?
You've got to work really hard to get any form of funds. As we know, there's always a story about the Olympic athletes that have had to go into debt in order to get themselves up and running. So really, genuinely, to be fair, it isn't easy. You just don't turn up and someone gives you $1 million and you appear in an ad. It's quite tough. Now, she may not have a very good manager. That might be something else that's going on.
Well, she managed herself for the last couple of years and she's only just taken a manager on now.
Yeah. I mean, really, that is being fair and maybe overly generous. I mean, she's a risk. When you're sponsoring someone, and we know this from our side of the business, you want someone who has the look, who has the charisma, but also who's low risk.
I know, but it's tragic, isn't it, how sanitised we've become. Can you please be the person that we want you to be, as opposed to the person that you actually are?
It's called advertising, though, Russell.
No. They're not advertising. They're personalities. And it's like, can we take all the edges off, please? Can we sanitise you? Can you just go according to the playbook?
I'd like her to be the person she wants to be, but I just cannot imagine the brand that would want that.
Well, I think the brand fit is wrong for her too, and some of the brand fits have been wrong for what she's like, and whoever was managing her tried to portray her in the wrong manner.
You know what,
So they need to go to a brand that actually actually suits who she is. So she's not trying to be squeaky clean. She's not trying to be someone else. And actually, I laugh even at those photographs because I'm like, they're taken by some sort of ad agency creative. The photos she tweeted the other day looked a lot better than those photos, you know.
Oh, don't worry, we'll get to that. It's been 2 years since the infamous suck on that faggots tweet got rice in hot water. Rice in hot water. Well done. Let's remind ourselves.
I want people to know how sorry I am for what's happened.
I don't know why, but I really want to stay at the Sofitel now. The choked up athlete press conference is PR 101. Tiger Woods, the Johns boys, Wayne Carey, John Monahan, Kenrick Monk. It's amazing Kleenex doesn't sponsor sports people. But is crying always the answer? Jane, would she have just been better to go, look, you know, I said something stupid, I was excited, I was a little bit pissed, you know?
And even the whole press conference thing, like, do we have to draw more attention to it? You know, just say sorry, I'm a young girl doing a stupid thing, I'm really sorry, and move on.
Jaguar dumped Rice after a tweet. Her Davenport and Seven Network deals quietly lapsed, and that video is now used in Australian athlete training. But still, it's all ancient history now. Todd, the public loves her again. Why don't brands?
There is a big difference between being liked and respected, and I think the brands just see too much risk with her, too much at this stage. I think it's probably a wait and see on Stephanie Rice. If she does well at the Olympics, that little box will fill up a bit more.
Do you know what's really tragic is that sports people, when they get media trained, they're media trained around problems. They're actually never media trained on show us your personality, have fun, do it in this way, right? It's always training around risk rather than training around being different, being yourself, creating a beacon.
But Russell, I mean, they're doing it because they think that that is the way they're going to earn money, and we know that if they're, you know, we know that if Monk, with all the craziness he's been up to, it'd be very difficult for him. It'd be very, very difficult for him to get sponsorship.
Well, why? Shane Warne, true to himself, look how successful he is. Yeah?
Okay, that's a great example.
Well, it is. It is.
I think one of the differences is, first of all, Shane Warne comes from a professional sport that's very well funded, and that commercialism has existed in his world for a very long time. If you take an Olympic athlete, I mean, the swimmers to start off with, they don't even live a normal teenage life,
That's right.
So they are absolutely ignorant of any way in which they should behave in that sense. They have no commercial understanding whatsoever. The number of athletes that I've had come up to me over the last 20 years and say, how do I get a sponsor? And normally my response is, run faster.
In this market, the money isn't even that big anyway. It's not like
but
that...
It's more than
for you, Russell, it might not be big.
Yeah, but it is honestly more than they have ever envisaged.
Yes, OK, so it might be 100 grand here or 200 grand there. It's not...
Just throw... just push that aside.
God, but it is...
100 grand in the back of my couch. What? 200 grand in the ashtray of my car. But $1 million in my castle in the clouds.
Right. But what's my point? My point is, to me, it's tragic you have to change your personal behaviour for the potential for money, which isn't even going to be life-changing.
But, you know, you say that, you don't understand that it is life-changing to them. A $5,000 sponsorship to an Olympic athlete is life-changing. That may mean that they don't have to do a part-time job anymore.
I go slightly the other way because I think because they've got so much time now, they do the media training, they get caught up in this brand and all. If they just did their sport and were normal people, when they did get to the press conference, they would say things that we expect to be normal.
Let's move on. The one sponsor she still has runs ads like this.
I'm so busy, I don't have much time for cooking. That's why I love Sunrise Authentic Asian Ready Meals. Just 2 minutes in the microwave for a quick and delicious Indian butter chicken. Authentic restaurant quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and fluffy steaming rice. In record time. Love it.
They taste as bland as my performance.
I would have liked her better if she would have said, now suck on that.
Rice was the swim team's trouble-making poster child, but she's been well and truly outpaced by Dumb and Dumber. Kenrick Monk and Nick Darcy Monk told reporters last week that he still doesn't know what was wrong with that photo. Russell, can you tell him?
The issue is it got into the public domain. That's where they're dumb and dumber. Go to the gun shop, that's what blokes do. You know, if you're in America, take a photo of your mate. All that's pretty normal. But seriously, sticking it on social media, that ain't smart.
The issue's not what they did, it's who did it. Those two blokes were both already skirting the law and in trouble and the bad boys in Australia, and then apologised and did their, not teary, sort of dumbfounded press releases and conferences where they're saying, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to offend anyone. And then to go and do this, I don't think it's a crime of going to guns, although I think there's an issue with the guns. I think it's just stupidity.
If it had been someone else, it wouldn't have been the same problem. They carried too much history with them, didn't they?
And maybe in isolation, but both of them together.
Yes.
What a combination.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow you feel like they're the only ones who'll hang out with each other, right?
Forever.
Still, you have to feel for an athlete trying to work it all out. If you're Stephanie Rice, it's apparently not okay to photograph yourself in a bikini. If you're Monk or D'Arcy, it's not okay to be photographed with a gun. But if you're Lauren Mark, it is perfectly fine to be photographed in a bikini with a gun. If Nick D'Arcy was confused, he didn't show it at his airport press conference.
The photos were just a bit of fun, and if anyone's been offended, obviously I deeply apologise. It was never the intent.
I guess at least he held back the tears, but that phrase gets me every time, if anyone was offended. If no one was offended, the cameras wouldn't be at the airport. Todd, does a half-hearted apology make things worse?
With Nick D'Arcy, I think a half-hearted apology is at least honest, because I don't think he believes it. In fairness to him, I don't think he really knows the difference between right and wrong. I think he probably doesn't know the difference between left and right. But I actually think that he, unlike Stephanie Rice, it was smart to get it done quickly, be as bland as he was about it, and then just move on.
There's a lot of debate whether he should be in the Aussie squad, given that he hasn't paid the damages from the Simon Cowley assault. Steve, is someone like Nick bad for our brand as Australia?
I don't think so. I really think that he's been through the legal process, he served his time, he goes to the swimming trials, and I've got to say, I was really delighted that he made the team, so he should be on the team like any other swimmer.
Is there a possibility when the starter fires his gun, he'll just go and stand next to him for a photo?
I think he's bad for the brand, but I think he's very talented. I think if he wins, he's great for the country. He will be a talented, forgivable asshole. If he loses, he'll just be an asshole.
Yeah, but you...
Unlike Rice, D'Arcy didn't have sponsors to lose. But here's a hypothetical. Let's finish with this. Here's a hypothetical. You're Nick D'Arcy's manager. He wins a gold medal in London in the pool. OK, let's make it even more. He's the only Australian male who wins a gold medal, so he's the beacon of the team. You're managing him, Russell. What do you do with Nick?
Well, I was thinking about maybe sending him off to Coles for some, because their prices are going even lower, or maybe Tip Top Bread's coming out with something thicker. But then I thought, you know what? Why don't we just put a 10-gallon hat on him, send him up to Queensland to be with Bob Catter, and they can go on a double ticket at the next election.
It's an interesting strategy, Jane. What would you do with Nick?
When he comes out of the swimming pool, his reaction is all important. Because if you think back to the history of Olympics, the things that we remember and the people that have gone on to be commercially successful, it's all about their reaction.
Steve, Aussies love an underdog story and Aussies love a winner as well. Is there a chance that if he does win a gold medal, there is hope for Nick?
It would be the best story of the Games. Obviously, if he's the only gold medal, it'd definitely be the best story of the game. But I've got it. I think, set up a charity because, even Warnie's done the charity, so that's the way to go. So, and I've worked out is it young men controlling aggression, which would be a good one for him. YMCA as a sponsor, because it's the swimming connection.
Yeah.
And then rather than being the village idiot, he's the village people. YMCA.
Genius.
Todd, I'm going to go to you finally. If you were Nick D'Arcy's manager, he wins a gold medal at the Olympic Games, what can you do with Nick?
Firstly, I wouldn't be Nick D'Arcy's manager. But what I'd recommend him doing is taking... I can't believe we're giving out free advice to Nick D'Arcy, but is taking any proceeds that he gets from any endorsement and paying that guy who he smashed his mouth. I think that would be not only the right thing to do, but I think it would be strategically smart.
Gruen Sweat, it's worth the switch. please thank our panellists, Russell Jane, Stephen Todd. We'll leave you with another Gruen quest. In previous years, we've scoured the vaults for the worst product of all time. We've hunted down the worst ad of all time. This year, we bring you Personal Worst, the search for the worst performance by an athlete in a commercial of all time. Feel like we may have jumped the shark. The winner of this contest, which will run through all 4 episodes of Gruen Sweat and 10 of Gruen Planet that follow, will take home the trophy that needs no explanation. The one other TV shows are too afraid to even mention. The Brown Logie. I enjoyed that half of you were excited. Where do we start? In Canada with an energy drink and Ben Johnson, a 100-metre runner who had his 1988 gold medal stripped after testing positive for steroids. Johnson lost an estimated $18 million in endorsements, his career bottoming out so far that he was willing to humiliate himself in 2006 in this cheesy parody of morning television that reminds kids why you should always say no to drugs. See you next week.
Today on our show we have Ben Johnson. How are you, Ben? You know, Ben, I want to ask you, probably every Canadian wants to ask you this question. On this show, Being Frank, you're allowed to be able to be candid, to put your cards on the table. Ben, when you run, do you cheetah?
Absolutely. I cheetah all the time.
Thank you very much for coming and being on the show, Being Frank. Thank you, Ben. Until next time, go ahead and cheetah.
Cheetah Power Surge Energy Drink, an all-natural source of energy without caffeine.